Welcome to today's episode. If you have ever felt like, man, I thought I'd be further along in life than I am right now. I thought I would have more success than I have right now. Look, if you've ever felt that way, you're not alone. And today we're going to identify what could be getting in the way, what could be holding you back, and how you can step into the level of success you had always dreamed for and the level of success you deserve. All of that is coming up next.
Welcome to the Storage Rebellion Show. Real conversations about building great storage businesses and becoming the kind of person capable of sustaining real freedom. Here's your host, Chris Michaels.
Storage Rebels, welcome back to the Storage Rebellion Show. I'm excited for today's episode. If you've ever thought, man, I thought I would just be further along in life than I currently am. Look, you're not alone. I felt this way. Many people do. In fact, I think this is actually very common for entrepreneurs specifically. And the reason being is we are always focused on the next target, the next goal that we want to hit, that sometimes it's easy to lose sight of how far we've come, the things we've already achieved. And there's a lot of people who probably want to be in the position or situation that you're currently in. But at the end of the day, it is easy at times to lose sight of how far you've actually come because we're so focused on the future. But if you're at a point in your life where you thought, I'm just nowhere near the level of financial success, personal, professional success that I had hoped for, then I think today's episode can add a lot of value for you. I want to dive right in. We're going to talk about three different things that could, number one, cause you to feel this way, but ultimately they could be getting in the way of you truly stepping into that life that you're after and that you deserve. The first one is vision. Now, some of you may have heard this before. I have to have a clear vision of what I want to achieve. Where I see people mess up is they are not specific enough with their particular vision. They might say, yeah, I know I want to be successful in business. I want to be generating $2 million a year in revenue. I want to be buying self storage. I want to be able to travel with my family whenever I choose. That's great, but that's not specific enough. If I ask you, hey, what's your goal? And you say, well, I want to achieve $2 million a year in revenue. Great. My next question is, how are you going to do that? What specifically do you have to do? How do you have to show up? How many offers a week should you be making? Who should you be talking to? What network should you be in? If you can't clearly identify those things, then you haven't mapped out your vision. And that actually could be the biggest thing preventing you from stepping into that level of success. You have to get really specific. What do you want your business to look like? How do you want that business structured? How often do you want to be working in that business per week? Because we sometimes get trapped in this mentality of, in order for me to grow, I need to do more and more and more and more. But that's not true. In fact, that's a trap. In order for you to continue growing, there has to come a point where you are leaning into others. You are building and developing a team. You are getting smarter with the systems and resources that you're using. But when you get really clear about what you want your business to look like, how you want to be showing up, how you want your day to day to look like, how do you want your family life to look like, how do you want to feel each day? What type of energy and clarity do you want to bring into each day? The more specific you are, the better. And when you start writing this down, which I would highly encourage you to do, don't just think about it. You have to write this down. There is magic that happens when you put the pen to the paper, and it becomes a lot easier to actually start mapping out what you have to do when it's written down. So write it down, read it daily, and revisit it, because when it's top of mind, your day will shift. In other words, when you have a specific goal top of mind every day, you'll show up a bit different when normally you may have fallen into the everyday rhythm and routine, right? But when you have that goal top of mind every day, you show up a bit different. You look for opportunities to move on that goal. Okay, so get really clear, get specific, write it down, read it daily. But also, and here's where a lot of people fall short, they will write down what they want their life, business success to look like, but then they don't write down how to achieve each of those items. So you might say, well, I want to have more clarity, more energy, more peace. I want to show up differently for my spouse, for my kids. Great. Because the last thing you really want to do is build a successful business while your personal life and family life falls apart. That's not what we're after. We want everything working together. And if you want more clarity, peace, energy, great. How can you do that? What are you currently doing? What are your habits, routines, thought processes, beliefs look like now? When you start mapping down, this is what I want my life to look like, this is my vision, and here's how I can do it. I'm telling you, you will show up differently in your day to day life. You'll start pursuing things in a different, more creative way. But it all starts with the clarity and the vision. There's a couple verses in scripture that I really like. The first one is Proverbs 29:18. It says, "Where there is no vision, the people perish." And then also in Proverbs 21:5, it says, "The plans of the diligent." Let me say that again. The plans of the diligent lead surely to abundance, but everyone who is hasty comes only to poverty. If you want to get out of the position you're in, if you want to move into the life you had always dreamed of, and you want to do that sooner than later, you need to get clear. You need to have a vision. So that's the first one. Number two is comfort. Comfort kills growth. I think I recently said this on last week's episode with John Farling. Comfort will kill growth. And it's really easy to step into comfort because we get caught up with our day to day life. And again, we fall into these routines. And believe it or not, that, although maybe hectic for you, is a level of comfort. It's the norm, right? And if it's the norm, you're going to fall into this level of comfort. And it's really hard to create growth when you're comfortable. In fact, if you look back on your life and you look back at the times where you probably faced the greatest trials, difficulties, challenges, I bet you became a better person on the other side of that. I bet you achieved something meaningful on the other side of that. If you are not being pushed, if you are not experiencing discomfort, it'll be really challenging for you to grow. If you really want to achieve all new levels of success and growth, you have to look at discomfort as an opportunity. Here's the truth: most people step away from discomfort because as human beings, we naturally seek comfort. That's why the most successful people in the world, the wealthiest people in the world, it's only 1 or 2%. The majority of people will seek comfort. And so growth is on the other side of your comfort zone. So when you see things that look uncomfortable or make you uncomfortable, maybe it's making the cold call, talking to the seller when you're not sure what you're going to say, making the offer even though you're not 100% sure if that's the right number, putting yourself out there and putting yourself in these situations that you wouldn't normally do because they're uncomfortable. Once you start doing that, you will experience all new levels of growth. I have fallen into this trap years ago. Occasionally, I won't lie, I still kind of do time to time. Because as I mentioned, as human beings, we seek comfort. But years ago, I was avoiding anything that made me uncomfortable as far as storage specifics, growing my storage business. I had a hard time when I first got started talking to sellers because I just lacked confidence. And that felt uncomfortable to me. I'd much rather send out a batch of mailers than cold call because it was uncomfortable. And it reminds me actually of a quote that I really like. The magic you're looking for is in the work you're avoiding. The work that we often avoid is the work that makes us uncomfortable. So I would push away from discomfort. And over the years, what I found is that when I put myself in those uncomfortable situations, that's when I experience the most growth. And I got to a place in life where I started putting myself in these uncomfortable positions so often that it became so clear that these things I was afraid of were actually opportunities. They were growth levers. In fact, they weren't anything I should be afraid of. If there are things you're avoiding right now, those are likely the levers that are going to get you to where you want to go. If you've been avoiding taking action in self storage, you've been avoiding sending the offer, making the call, getting yourself in a group of investors, getting into the right community, if you're avoiding that because it just feels uncomfortable, that's likely the thing that's preventing you from being where you want to be. Hopefully that's helpful. Let's move to the third item here, action. You see, a lot of people get stuck in information overload. When I consume enough, then I'll have confidence and I'll go out and I'll do the thing I want to do. But that's actually a trap because you don't grow from consuming, you grow from doing. Think about sports for an example. If you want to uh, be a professional athlete, you can consume hours and hours of content in relation to that sport. But until you go out and you actually get on the field, you start playing the game. That is actually when you learn. That's when you become a great player. The same applies to life and business. You have to show up, you have to do the work, you have to take action because that's the only way you will experience growth. So ask yourself this, if you revisit the goals that you have, the life that you want to achieve, the financial success you want to step into, what are you currently doing right now as far as taking action that's moving you closer to that? And there might be some things you're doing, there might be a lot you're doing, there might be nothing at all that you're doing. But take a good look at what are you taking action on? Where are you pushing forward? And if you're one of the people that says, I've been taking massive action, like that's not a problem for me, but it feels like the needle still isn't moving, then what you really need to do is revisit what are you taking action on? What levers are you currently trying to pull? Because those might not be the levers you should be focused on. I sometimes hear investors say, I've been building my list of facilities, I've been reaching out to them, I've been sending letters, and just nothing is happening. I'm doing the work, I'm taking massive action. I have a huge list, but nothing's happening. Well, maybe mailers isn't the thing for you. And ask yourself, why are you avoiding making the calls? Why are you avoiding finding the right person or VA to put in place to make those calls if maybe you don't have the time to do it? Sometimes we're just focused on the wrong things. And sometimes we'll even focus so hard on one specific thing because we want to avoid doing the thing we know we should really be doing. So, for an example, I'll use mailers and cold calling. Some people will focus purely on sending mailers out and they'll hit it so hard to make up for the fact that they just don't want to do the cold calls because it makes them uncomfortable. So they'll work twice as hard on the thing that's probably not the right fit for them specifically. Maybe it is for some other people, but maybe the thing you need to be doing is cold calling. Maybe that's where your gift is. And again, this kind of goes back into the magic you're looking for is in the work you are avoiding. Ask yourself that question. Am I avoiding some things in my business, my life? And if you could get clear on that, then we could find a way around this. So hopefully this has been helpful for you. Before we wrap up today's episode, I want to share a cool opportunity with you guys. If you're a new investor and you're looking for a small, intimate coaching group designed to help you step into ownership for the first time in the next 3 to 9 months, I have a cool opportunity for you. It's called First Close. Many of you have seen our First Close program in the past. However, it's all new, completely rebuilt. It has been restructured and redesigned to focus on a smaller group of people because we have one goal and mission is to help as many people as we can get across the closing table, step into their first deal, and change their life and change their financial success. So, if you've been wanting to get into storage and you're ready to step into your first deal, this could be a cool opportunity for you. There is an application to submit just so we can see and make sure it's the right fit. But if that sounds interesting, go to thestoragerebellion.com. There's a tab for First Close. Click on that. It'll give you all the information you need. But I hope to see you on the inside. Thanks for joining us on today's episode, and I'll see you next week.
Thanks for listening to the Storage Rebellion Show. For resources, support, and a community that has your back, visit storagerebels.com. We'll see you next time.